Welcome to MBS Academy's editions of Real Lives, and today we're talking to Gavin Sharpe. Gavin is a psychotherapist in the Monaco and Côte d'Azur area. Hi Gavin, how are you?
I'm very good, Jackie, and thank you very much for inviting me on.
It's great. Thank you for coming along. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. How long have you got?
Well, maybe you'd just like to tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, I'll give you the
and where you do it.
As you said, I'm a UK qualified psychotherapist. I'm also a sex therapist and relationship therapist. So, as you rightly said, I'm based in Monaco, and I see people from Monaco and also from other places in the Côte d'Azur. And I work with individuals and couples who come to therapy with a range of issues. So it could be depression, anxiety, obviously based on my qualifications. It could be sexual problems, relationships, addiction, a whole range of issues.
Yes, sounds great. As we spoke before doing this recording, we're going to talk about the virus, the COVID-19, and your experiences as a psychotherapist around that issue. As we also spoke about, these recordings are really for people to share their experiences. So as we share stories, it can really help others that are going through similar situations to feel less isolated, to feel a bit more supported, or to gain insight into an area that maybe they're struggling with. So we've been in lockdown in France now for 6 weeks. I know I've totally lost count. How have you found that from a psychotherapist point of view, from your work point of view?
I think it's sort of been a roller coaster, Jackie. And I think that as all of us, and myself included, have gone through the different phases, it's in the beginning, there was this sort of sense of we're in it together, we'll make it through, and there's perhaps what good can come of this. And then I think as time has gone on, some of the anxieties, some of the fears, some of those emotions that maybe we didn't want to connect with at the beginning, some of that has come up. And then I've sort of seen a sort of shift in what people are thinking and feeling, probably, especially in the last 2 weeks. I've noticed just a real sort of shift in emotions.
Yes, I think it took a while for everybody to get used to the situation, and the atmosphere did change as people it became people's norms. And do you think the shift in the last couple of weeks is due to the expectation of this changing? The date we've been given at the moment is potentially from the 11th of May onwards. Do you think that's changed people's thoughts and attitudes towards it?
I do. I think something got triggered in many of us when we started thinking about the ending, because I think what's become clear to all of us now, and is becoming clearer, is that it's not really an ending. It's not that confinement is over and, hey, we can all go out and play and we can do what we were doing before. And I think that triggers feelings of loss. I think it triggers fear. I mean, one of the things that you and I were talking about, Jackie, is that when we went into lockdown, we all had these, as I said before, these aspirations. We were going to achieve so many things. And then the last 2 weeks, I've had so many clients come to therapy feeling inadequate. I haven't achieved what everyone else has achieved. And I'm looking on social media and I can see that my friend has learned a new language and a new musical instrument, and everyone's succeeding at homeschooling. And I've managed to get out of bed. I managed to get through the day without, throttling the kids. I mean, I'm saying it in jest, and yet everyone else is doing all these things. And my experience has not been that, at least not my clients or my friends have been saying, oh, do you know what? I've achieved so much. But what we're left with is this feeling of less than. I feel inadequate because because everyone else has achieved so much and I'm the only one who hasn't.
Yes. Yes, I read your article, which I presume is accessible via your website.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
About
Achieving
getting through this.
diddly squat.
Yeah, achieving diddly squat, which is just, it was just great. And for me personally as well, I identified with that because yes, you're almost fired up at the beginning to sort of, you know, achieve and use all this energy to sort of get this done that you've always wanted to do, and, you know, suddenly take up jogging. But I mean, that's just not the case, is it? I mean, we're all human beings, and, you know, we're in a very strange situation for most people. I think one of the things that I'm aware of is, as we move out of this, is the transition from being in isolation to going back to social environments. And I think one of the things that may be an issue is trust, and you know, feeling safe within social environments. And I'm also, you know, that some people might actually find this really difficult to the point of social phobia and agoraphobia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you have any thoughts about this? And do you think there's anything that people maybe could start thinking about and doing now to sort of ease that transition into, you know, social connections again? I don't want to use the word normality, because I think it will be a guarded social connection. I think it will be quite gradual anyway.
I think it's a great question for all of us, and myself included. I think maybe one of the first things that we can do is just try and get in touch with our emotions. And I think just generally, we're not that compassionate with ourselves. And we have this sense, I think, sometimes of, right, I shouldn't be frightened of going out to the supermarket. I should. And as I said in that article, and I often say in my therapy room, get rid of the shoulds. So there are no shoulds. And I think we need to be able to check in with ourselves and say, okay, I am feeling fearful, or I'm anxious. And so, you know, and my clients are bored of hearing me say this, that give yourself permission to feel it. So I think step one is I need to allow myself to say, this is okay. I'm anxious and I'm frightened. And, you know, there are so many things that we don't know about the virus that I think it's really okay, you know, I mean, it's always okay to have our emotions, but we don't have all the facts. So step one, I think, for many of us is, okay, I'm going to check in with myself. And then I think it's what kind of the CBT practitioners talk about, which is kind of exposure therapy, which is I'm going to take some small steps. So maybe I'm not going to say, I am going to go to the supermarket today and do my shopping, but maybe I'm just going to walk to the end of my road, if that's what's allowed. Maybe I'm going to go meet my friend, again, whatever the law allows us to do,
Yes.
socially distancing, but just I'm going to take some small steps, because I think once we start to get into the bad habit of avoiding, I'm going to avoid the supermarket, avoid going out, you know, our world starts to shrink. Yes. And the anxiety feeds on itself. So for me, those would be two of the things that I would recommend, or at least sort of play with doing. And it's okay if I said I'm only going to walk to the end of the road and I get halfway, that's okay, because there's always tomorrow. So I think we're just going to have to be patient with ourselves.
Yes, I think the two great pieces of advice there. Absolutely. And I think it's really important, as you say, about the language that we use, our internal language. And, you know, who says, where do the shoulds and the musts come from? They generally come from other people's thoughts and feelings and not our own.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to be aware of your internal language.
And I think the other thing, as you were saying, I was just thinking, Jackie, that we all tend to do, it's almost like the social media point, is it's the comparisons.
Yes.
So it may be that my partner or my best friend, they might be ready to go out. And then we get into this whole peer pressure thing, and then back to feeling inadequate. And the reality is that's okay. If your spouse or your friend is there at a place where they're happy to go out, and maybe they're happy to take within the framework of the law some risks, that's good for them. But it's also okay that I may not be in the same place, because we're all going through the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but how we experience it is very different. And again, I think we have to take, make some allowance for that.
Yes, and not feel guilty and not feel
Yeah.
inadequate, and recognize that everybody is different, everybody is unique, and everybody has a different way of coping with things.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to reach out to somebody if you need that support. And it didn't necessarily be a professional, but it could be that you talk to a friend or a family member about your anxieties and your feelings, because I think talking about them really, really helps to lessen the anxieties.
Yeah, and I think also there's sometimes the sense of shame that there's something wrong with me, which is the essence of shame. If you really knew me, you wouldn't love me. And so, but we just build that into our lives without even realizing it. And so you're absolutely right. It's can I lean on a good friend? Can I just share with them what I'm feeling? Because that just helps kind of reduce some of the shame. And inevitably, when we do allow ourselves to be a bit more vulnerable, we usually get quite an empathic and vulnerable response. And the friend will say, actually, it may not be this exact thing, but I've been struggling with something too, and it's this. And then that's what the connection does. It helps us feel less isolated, gives us that little bit more kind of confidence. So that's, completely agree with you.
Mm-hmm. And I think getting back to sort of social media platforms, which tend to be very skewed, aren't they, in what goes out there, where people are saying, I've done this, I've achieved this, look how great I am. It's almost a platform for people that are already very confident, or are looking maybe from a business point of view of achieving something from saying these things, but not to take that, to see it for what it is. And maybe we should always be going, actually, I support Gavin in doing diggly squat. Start a diggly squat brigade.
I love that idea. Let's all have banners and be proud that we've achieved not so much. I mean, but I want to make 2 points, one on social media, but actually one on diddly squat. I said, think about it, Jackie. But the diddly squat point is that, again, I had said in the blog about, I also think we need to redefine kind of productivity, because when we're in confinement, it can't be the same as before. So before, I felt productive, maybe because I had a routine. I went to the gym, I went to work, I did the school run. Or if you're in the corporate world, productivity is all about new business leads today, what revenue. And I have found and shared, like with my clients, if you're going to use that benchmark for your time in confinement, it's a hiding to nothing, because you cannot end your day with the same sense of achievement if that's what you think productivity is. So, we were joking before, but actually, if you have got out of bed and you've got dressed and you've had a healthy meal and maybe a healthy walk, and done some work, then that might be okay. So think about what a productive day means to you.
Yeah.
And social media is you're absolutely right. And even though intellectually, I know that I'm looking at people's achievements and it's not real, I can still get carried away. And I can still find after half an hour, I'm feeling exhausted or I'm feeling inadequate. So I think we just have to keep reminding ourselves that, as I often say, how many of us go onto social media and say, I had an argument with my spouse today and we had really bad sex last night.
Yeah.
We just don't. So we go on and we say, here's a picture of me by the beach, and here's the fancy restaurant I went to, and today I'm feeling happy. But we don't post, today I'm feeling a little abandoned, or today I had a huge argument with my partner, because that's not what social media is for. So we have to really pick and choose, all of us, what we allow ourselves to occupy our time with. And I think that if we can limit the time that we look at social media, it's probably not a bad thing.
Yes, I agree with you. And also news. I mean, you talked earlier about being informed and knowing what's going on and what the laws are going to be. But also, I think you have to make sure that you are reading news from good sources.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot
Absolutely.
of fake or false news, or what's the word I'm looking for? News that is sensationalizing this period of time.
We're not going to talk about Donald Trump now, are we?
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's
what
good.
I was going to say was balance. I think it's about getting a balance in your life, be it productivity, relationships, emotions, interactions with social media, whatever it is. We need to make sure that there is a balance, so that you're not getting over anxious, you're not denying the emotions that you're feeling, that you're not applying words to yourself which are not probably real, such as, oh, I'm hopeless, I'm useless, I haven't done anything, I'm not productive, I'm this, I'm that. It's about getting the balance and realizing that, if you're on holiday, you wouldn't beat yourself up because you hadn't, achieved your 10K run or learnt a language in 2 weeks. So I think maybe it's better to have a comparison with an extended holiday than normal, our normal everyday lives.
Yeah, and I was thinking then, as you were talking about, even with trusted news, let's say my trusted news is, I don't know, it's BBC, or just picking it randomly. But even then, I'm going to still monitor the amount of time, because I've caught myself, with my phone, I'm going into the toilet with my phone, or, I'm getting out of bed and I'm reaching for my phone. And I'm trying not to do that, because the reality is whatever's happening in the world, for however many minutes or whatever time, I won't go into my personal hygiene habits, but however long I'm in the bathroom for, the world will still go on and my world will still go on. So just, yes, filter what news channels you look at, and then say to yourself, okay, I'm going to watch the news once a day, and I will only look at, these sources once or twice a day.
Yeah.
And as you reminded me then, I think one of the things that probably we did going into lockdown is, I was just thinking about holiday, and you're right, when we're on holiday, we're so much more relaxed, we're kinder to ourselves, and we're often more creative, and we come up with lots of ideas. And I think that's why we assumed going into lockdown, I can be creative and I'll learn the language and I'll be able to, write my new musical, I'll do all these things. But I think we underestimated how much stuff we're living with, all of the anxiety and the fears and, and the loss. And I think for me, it's not just about the loss of what was and may not be the same. It's the anticipatory loss. I don't know what the world is going to look like in 3 months or 6 months. And so I need to be able to, connect with all those emotions. So if I've got all that swimming through my head, then it's probably not that surprising that I haven't learned the new language, or I haven't been at my best, because my mind is spinning with stuff. I'm worried about my elderly parents, or I'm worried about, the kid's wedding that we just cancelled, or there's so much stuff.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And choice, we have, when you go on holiday, you choose. It's something that you plan and you look forward to, and you've chosen your destination, you've chosen your time. But this is very much, it hasn't been our choice. It's been a necessity to, keep everybody safe and healthy. And I think that lack of choice probably impacts on the way that you think and feel and behave about things as well.
And then I just also wanted to say, just, on a positive note too, that even for those of us who are struggling with parts of the confinement, I also think that I have seen a number of clients say, but you know what, I am starting to take something away from this. Yes. And I am finding meaning. And, as a therapist, we talk about finding meaning in suffering. And I was quoting the other day the author Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor and a psychotherapist. And he wrote the famous book, Man's Search for Meaning, and about what he realized in the Nazi concentration camps was that the Nazis could take everything from him, except the one thing they couldn't take was his freedom to choose how to respond.
Yes.
And so when I think about things like that, then that gives me hope. And I also think that I am seeing clients who are saying, you know, I've spent my life sort of jumping on aeroplanes, going to business meetings, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And I want to spend more time with my family. There's something here that, as difficult as the confinement's been for all the reasons you and I've just discussed, some of us also, or lots of us, are also taking some lessons out of it. And I think if we can take that forward, what was my meaning? What meaning have I made from this? Am I going to spend more time with the family, or will I be less focused on material things? Whatever it is, if we can take something from this, then that gives me hope for personal change and maybe collective change.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think in many ways we're fortunate, and I think you need to look at the positives of this. There aren't many generations that have had the opportunity to press pause, whether it be in a personal, family way, or the whole world is on pause. So it is an opportunity on a personal level and a society level and a worldwide level to say, actually, this has been good. This has happened. We should stick with this. We should start looking at maybe changing this on a permanent basis. It is a time for worldwide reflection almost. So it's not, and the changes that could come out of this could be quite significant. But I think you're right that it's so important to focus on the positives. And I think it's also okay to actually stay within your family unit and not worry about the rest of the world. I think if you've gone through the last few weeks just focusing on your immediate family and not taking any notice of anything else that's gone on, there's nothing wrong with that either. You don't have to be constantly watching the news, constantly being responsible for the rest of the world and society. You can just say, well, actually, I've just the important thing is my family, and I've spent time, we've reconnected, or not, because everybody's experiences will be different. But whatever your experience, I think from this is your experience, and I think you've got to value that and reflect on that and take the positives and be grateful for opportunities that many people in their lifetime will never have, even if that is the opportunity just to press pause.
Yeah, and I like that, and I think that, again, it kind of goes back to almost my kind of giving yourself permission that it's okay that if your meaning, of course, is going to be different to my meaning, and your meaning might be that you want to spend more time with your family because that's what gives your life value. And mine may be I'm more connected with now saving the planet, and I want to go on a crusade to do more to bring that to the world. And that's okay. It doesn't make you less than or me more than. It's just each of us have found some meaning, something different that I will take from confinement, and I'll take that into my, into my life. And it, as you say, it may be as important and as simple as, I think I just want to spend more time with my family, or work from home a bit more. Yes. Or I want to spend less time because it's going to be crazy. Yes. We're all going to come out of it with something different.
Absolutely. I think, and one of the things to remember from that is that we are all different. We are all unique. We all have different thoughts. We all have different ways of viewing the world. Two people can go through the same thing, but come out with different perspectives, different emotions, different reasons, different meanings. And, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It is. And I think accepting that, I mean, if we can come out of this sort of get on a society level, just accepting our differences, that would be a big step forward, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It's been great talking to you. If people want to contact you, how do they do that?
So they can either go to my website, find a bit more information, which is rivierawellbeing.com, or they can just email me, which is gavin@rivierawellbeing.com.
Okay, just like to say that there will be links underneath this video for Gavin's contact details. And if you've enjoyed this video and podcast, then please like, share, because really do want to bring stories to the community to help and support everybody through their life experiences. Thank you very much, Gavin, for speaking today. And I really hope that we can meet up very soon and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.